Hello, and you're very welcome to the fourth edition of the Mobiography Awards live show. I'm Glenn Mulcahy. My co-host Brendan O'Shea is away in Belfast on a holiday. These guys have such a life, Like last time it was Andy that was away on holidays, but Andy is back. Hi, Andy.
Hello. Hiya.
So we're approaching the deadline. It's only a few weeks out now to the 20th of August, the final submission dates for the Mobiography Awards. We've seen some absolutely amazing images. If you follow Mobiography on Instagram, you will see regular examples. Andy is posting some of the shots that are coming in that are kind of piquing our interest. So please do check it out if you haven't already. Andy, how are things going with the competition? Are you happy with entries, or is there anything we can do to let people know?
Yeah, there's some great images coming in. What I'd say is, keep them coming. Yeah.
We've seen lots of still images, and we have seen a limited and enough number of the video/multimedia categories. And we've been conscious of this for a couple of weeks out because obviously our key sponsor is LumaTouch, and I'm delighted that in today's show we're going to have a chat with Terri Morgan, the CEO and co-founder of LumaTouch. We're going to have a look at a practical demonstration of how you can actually create a multimedia story within LumaFusion. By far the best editor on iOS. I would say that though, because I do train on that app, and I've trained thousands of people all over the world in broadcast and everything how to use it. So I'm delighted to actually have Terri with us. She'll be joining us in a second. But what I would say is this, like if you're on the fence and if you're kind of thinking, oh, maybe I'll enter, maybe I won't enter, take today as an example of how quickly you can potentially create a really, really powerful multimedia piece. Terri has prepared a piece using some of the photography from Brendan O'Shea that you would have seen from way back in the very, very first episode. And, it really is a kind of a step-by-step process. Unlike previous weeks where we've kind of just a conversational piece looking at work, this really is a kind of almost follow-along tutorial. And as always, I'll be inviting people to actually submit questions if you have questions, and we'll put those to Terri towards the end of the session. So without any more procrastination, let me invite Terri up onto the stage. Hey, Terri.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, delighted to have you. So again, for everyone at home, the reason of the later time today is that, time zones, they're great, aren't they? We have fun about whether it's GMT or British summertime or daylight savings time if you're not in Britain. Terri, it's first thing in the morning practically over there in Seattle, right?
Right. It's 8 o'clock. Or no, it's 10 o'clock. Sorry. It feels like 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. See, I rest my case. But that was part of the reason we wanted to do the later time zone. But equally, when we announced the later time, Andy's had messages from people saying, thanks so much for making it later. It's not 2 o'clock in the morning for me now. So, it's all relative. But as always, today's show will be available for catch up on the Mobiography YouTube channel as well. Anyway, Terri, what have you got in store for us today? Do you want to give us a sneak peek of just what you're planning to cover?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm going to just talk a little bit about why you want to create a multi-image slideshow from your beautiful photographs. And then I'm going to show you how you would do that in LumaFusion. And I have a little bit of slides about history of different ways that people have put together music and slides or photos together to really enhance a presentation or just add some impact to or in context to a single image.
Okay, fantastic. Well, look, let's not waste time. Let's dive straight on in. Andy, I'm going to step off with you if that's okay. We'll come back to you. We've done the press, okay? And Terri, are we swapping over to your Mac? Is it?
Yeah. Do my Mac, and we'll do a keynote, and then I'll move on to the iPad.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to start by talking just a little bit about myself, as you know, that's fun to do. Anyway, I'm the co-founder and lead designer of LumaFusion, which is a product that LumaTouch makes. It's an iPad and iPhone editor, and we can do multi-image and multi-track timelines with audio and titles and so on. And there's some effects and color correction in there. So after graduating from high school in 1982, that kind of ages me, but I attended 2 years of photography school where I was mostly learning about 4x5 film cameras, like the one you see on the screen, and medium format 2¼ cameras, and then a little bit of 35mm. But we were really doing the whole thing, correcting, building shapes with a 4x5 and doing all that stuff. So after photography school, I went to University for Visual Communications, which was mostly about film and video. And in the middle of the night there at at the university is where I first fell in love with video editing and just the magic that that brings to images. And oh my goodness, my presentation went away. Not sure what
Did your Mac
happened.
go to sleep mode or anything by any chance?
Yeah, my Mac just I'm sorry. We might have to go directly to, hold on. Glenn, can you take over for a minute and I'll be right back?
No problem. This is the fun and frolics of live programming, guys. So in previous weeks when they've actually been live on air, Brendan's connection has completely dropped off mid-sentence, and Andy has also had to step out at one stage. Touch wood. Of course, now that I say this out loud, I'm now setting myself up for the inevitable fall as well, where my Wi-Fi will drop. But, you know, having worked in television for 20 years, I've witnessed all sorts of fun and frolics live on television. So, of course, it's going to happen when we're live on the internet that stuff goes wrong as well. And just for the record, we spent over 45 minutes checking the tech and everything today, and I bet you what happened is the power adapter for the Mac came out. Anyone want to place a bet on it? That's what I'm going to bet my money on. But anyway, it's no problem. We'll get Terri back shortly. What I would say is I've been involved in the kind of video and photography side of things for quite a long time. The reason that we actually effectively framed the entire awards around this idea of trying to give back to the community and hosting these shows was that there's no absence of photography competitions out there. In fact, they kind of seem to be popping up almost like mushrooms in the woods at the minute. But at the same time, Andy in particular has been invested in the mobile photography space for the best part of a decade. Brendan, exactly the same. It's a pity he can't be with us today, but at the end of the day, he too has been pivotal. And when I met the two guys back in 2015, it was very much a case of, here two guys are super passionate about the whole idea of mobile photography and empowering people basically as storytellers. So I think I think that's what kind of hopefully sets the competition apart from the others, that it's not just take, that we are genuinely and consciously trying to basically give back to the audience and encourage people in their journey, basically, as photographers. And just tell us a joke while we're waiting. I don't know if anyone else is following along the conversations that are happening on YouTube right now, but I thought Mark Settle wasn't going to be able to join us today because I got a big long PM from him saying that he wasn't allowed to because it was dinner time in the UK. But clearly he's there and he's with us. And Brendan has actually joined us from Belfast as we speak as well. And Brendan is very much Murphy's Law. But first of all, as I'm skimming through all the different people who basically joined into the live stream, every single time that we go live, I'm kind of left almost breathless. We have Germany, Tampa Bay, Florida, California, Brendan in Belfast, British Columbia, Arizona, Orlando, Canada, North Carolina, Israel, San Francisco, Germany, San Francisco again, and obviously I'm based in the Midlands in Ireland. Andy is in the UK, and Terri, when she comes back to us, is all the way over in Seattle. I'm going to dip back into her and see how she's getting on.
Yeah. So my laptop has completely died. It might have overheated or whatever. So what I was saying, I believe, before this unfortunate event is that I first fell in love with video editing in the middle of the night at college, where I made a cut between things, and it was just like this sort of magic happened, where things sunk up, and the cut was perfect, and I just thought, that was so satisfying. I think I want to do this permanently. And basically I did. So I worked as an editor in a house, post-production house for 7 years. And then I went on to work for places like Avid and Pinnacle and Fast Multimedia, Lightworks, and so on. I went through the round of all the big tech companies. And at some point, Chris and I decided that we know what we're doing and we could go make our own editor, which is what we did. We made LumaTouch and we made LumaFusion as our first product. And it's been the best decision I've ever made in my life. So super fun and just great. So without going into that any deeper, so one of the reasons I find using photographs together with emotion and transitions on a timeline is that it brings context to your work. So it's really rare that you can get a photograph that encompasses everything that the experience was. there are times when there's a photograph that's so perfect and so beautiful that it says everything you want it to say and nothing more and nothing less. But most of the time, the greater experience that we're having can be represented better with some motion, with some direction of the eye, with some timing. So these things are something you can add with video. And so back in the old days, I guess in the 80s, it was very popular, and to use projectors, like a series of projectors, and align them all. So like I did 16 projector slideshows. So 16 projectors were lined up and aligned so I could take one image and split it into 16 parts and project it on a giant screen and align them all so you can't tell it's multiple images. And that was really cool, because what you could do is direct the viewer's eye to a very small portion of that where they think they're seeing the whole image. And then at a critical point, you just like, bam, and you show this gigantic screen of images. And I had an image in my deck that was from the Ford Motor Company. We had 46 projectors lined up, synced to their music and sound. And that must have been something to see. I'd love to see that. And if you ever get a chance to see a multi-projector slideshow, then totally worth it.
I'll just say, I think the Epcot Center, which I visited when I was, we're going back quite a long time, but I was probably 21 or 22, quite old for a Disney visit. But I remember this amazing 360-degree theater that was all that. It was all overlapping projectors with images. Mind-blowing.
It's like you would think that movies would be the ultimate viewing experience, but I think actually a multi-image slideshow is, because it's just so moving. And so anyway, that is one reason to use multi-image, making multi-image video or slideshow, is that you get to direct the viewer's attention from a single image to multiple images, and you get to move them around. It's like a dance. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about today were a couple things you would be better off developing if you're going to be a video editor. And one of those is this timing. The timing it's like a metronome that's playing in everyone's head. Everybody has their own timing. And, awkward people have bad timing maybe, but timing allows you to know when to break into a conversation, when to start your next sentence. And if you look at the way we talk, it's all on a certain cadence. We all have our own. And as you edit, you listen. You need to listen, like internally, to that personal metronome, and use that to guide your cutting. So listen to your timing, and then use it like a dance to flow to.
I think that's a really interesting point, Terri. I think the bizarre thing about editing, and again, similar to you, I come from the kind of background of broadcast, but an awful lot of people see editing just as the actual technical task of how do you press a button to get something to do something. Whereas what you're actually talking about is this idea, this innate rhythm, this idea of understanding how the storytelling is far much more than button pushing. It really is about understanding how the audience respond to the pictures and how you're going to solicit that response. Right?
And that's the interesting part about editing. It's not, I know Avid or I know Final Cut or whatever. Who cares? It doesn't matter what editing system you use. The joy of editing comes from those magic moments when you've timed something so perfectly that it moves you and you want to watch it over and over. And like that is something, I can do that job 15 hours a day and not be tired at the end of it. I just love it. And it's not just me. I think it's just this natural, it's like a job that consistently gives you praise. It's like, oh, that was cool. Oh, that was really cool. You did that. That was cool. So it's super fun to do. But to do that, you need to respect that sense of timing that you have. And you also need to understand the language of things like transitions. So like a fade to black and back up typically means something. It's not just a visual thing where I'm going to black and back up. It means that there's a passage of time, or there's a passage of place, or there's a melancholy. And a dissolve kind of means this kind of it's not necessarily a passage of place, but it's a change in thinking. So there's these languages that you're dealing with by just using certain cuts, dissolves, wipes, fades, and fast cutting or slow cutting. It's a language that you develop, and good editors kind of take that language and make their own sub language out of it and make something that no one's ever seen.
So,
but yeah.
So we've gotten entries obviously in for the multimedia category, and earlier today we got an entry in, which I'm gonna, if it's okay with you, Terri, I'm actually going to share this with the audience. We've shared photographs that have been entries over the last couple of weeks. This is going to give you a chance to see if the power has come back on that Mac as well, by the way. But this piece literally was submitted in the last 24 hours by Rob Layton, and I think a lot of what Terri has just spoken about is actually really clearly demonstrable, if you like, in this piece, because there's a change in the pacing and the tone in the piece, and he uses the transition she's just mentioned in it. And I'd like folks to have a look at this and see what they think. So just stand by while I put this up on screen. Here we go. A piece that has been submitted as part of the multimedia moving pictures category. And again, Rob is, he's based on the Gold Coast in Australia. His photographs are spectacular. He obviously never sleeps, which is also beneficial at times, but you can see how the idea of the pacing, cutting on the beat in this particular case, and just that change in rhythm and everything is really, really quite obvious there. How are you getting on with the tech? Do you mind me asking? Is there any sign of life in the Mac?
There's no sign of life. And, if it comes back on at some point, what I'll do is just show that one, that 46 projector slideshow. But other than that, I think we'll just move on.
We've got to pull that Mac back some way if we can, because there was such.
It's just coming on. It is just now coming on. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
not a holy man, folks, but you know what? There's definitely a time to pray.
Okay. I'm just logging in now.
Awesome. Well, while you're doing that, I'm just going to dip into the comments and questions that are coming up. As actually, there's quite a few. Mark Settle has just chimed in with, "We've all been there. Before you start training, everything works, and then the minute you say put it all goes pear-shaped." That's the nature of life. That's the nature of life. People join in from Canada, more from the States. Savannah, Jack Hollings with us. Hello, Jack. Great to have you with us. Terri, I started my career in multi-image slideshows. Agree, breathtaking. Actually, I remember those days so well. Very good. Great to have you with us, Jack. People join in from Malaysia, and Mark is just saying that Rob has the advantage of having having that amazing palette, if you will, basically on his doorstep, which is very true. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure if I got up at 6 a.m. and pointed out to be just mist and rain, that's the nature of the weather here. But anyway,
yeah. So my thing is up now. So
yeah. So let's see if we can get something up on screen. So I don't see a preview of the screen right now, but just
so. I talked a little bit about this, but here's a single image that I just took on my vacation, and I like the image in itself, but as I add the rest of the context to my vacation, it just becomes a richer, fuller thing for me. So I was going to show a couple other examples. This particular example is just, as you can see, a shot of a golf course. It's not a great shot alone. And in this famous example, if you see the rest of the image, you see this full dichotomy of what's going on here. The African migrants are trying to escape from Morocco while these golfers sit on this pristine golf course and just play on. So, but even when you're lucky enough to get the situation that allows you to get all the context in one image, you can get more context if you have the close-ups and the different angles and so on. And that's part of what a multi-image slideshow will do for you. You could add, the people that are getting stuck on the fence and being pulled off the fence, and just the pain and misery that's going on there. Okay, so here's this slide. On the right, you can see how a multi-image slideshow is created. And on the left, you can see these amazing guys that have created this 46 projector slideshow. And you can see their old computers there to trigger each of the decks to rotate the slide tray and shine. And back when I was doing it, which dates me even more, we just had a click track, an audio click track that would change the slide decks for each of the slide decks. So that's how that was done. And this is just about timing, about having the language for cuts and dissolves that we already talked about. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. Yeah, so now I was just going to say what I was going to talk about today in LumaFusion, which is how to add or import photos and media, how to create a project, some editing basics, and how the timeline works, a little about audio levels and how to create motion and transitions, and then what to do with when you're done. So from here, we can actually go to the iPad, hopefully, and see just what I created last night.
Awesome.
So much for slick presentations, right?
Anyway. Murphy's Law, but anyway, yeah. Right,
okay,
let me take this.
So now I'm going to play this. Yeah, go ahead, full screen. Okay. So that's just something, I mean, it really took me very little time last night to put this together. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you, I'm going to start with a clean edit and just show you how to do the first couple things on here. So you know how to do a pan and a scan or a move on with a fade on and so on, and where to get music and so on. So what we're going to do first is look at the interface. So up here in the right-hand side, you see your preview of your timeline, or it can be the preview of your source if you tap on a source. And over here in your library, you see all these photos that Brendan shared with me. And that is from my photo albums. And I put it in an album in my photos library because if you simply throw them all in your photos library and don't organize it there, then the date that the photo is taken is going to have them splattered all over the place, and you'll always be looking for them. So I sort of collect things in albums if I use a photos album. But you can also import from, you can import media from in a lot of different locations, Box or Dropbox or Google Drive. And once you log into any of these, you just navigate to your stuff and import it, and it will show up in the imported library here, which is right here. Incidentally, this blue dot is my finger moving on screen, so keep an eye on that if you want to keep track of where I am. So in the photos album, I have all this stuff here. So let's go down here to the bottom left corner, and you'll see the project manager. As you can see, you can have just loads of different projects. These I don't tend to clean off my iPad very often, so I just have a lot of different things I've been working on. And so I'm going to go start a new project with the second button, which is right here. And then you get this little pop-up. And in the pop-up, you can name your project. I'll just call this Mobiography 3. Do I have to already? And then you get to choose the frame rate, aspect ratio, and color space. Now, if you're working with photos, then you have no frame rate. So based on the first clip added is just going to make a 30 frame timeline, which is absolutely fine. If you're going to YouTube or something like that, that's fine. But if you have a lot of different choices here. So up to 240 frames per second. There's not a lot of reasons to make a 240 frame per second slideshow, but if you find one, you can email me. But then aspect ratio. So you can just have it select the aspect ratio of your photos, but what I kind of like to do is when I'm doing photos and I'm just doing it for fun is to use the widescreen cinema one here, so I get a nice wide thing that I can collect my images in. And then color space, I'm just going to leave it on the first video clip added, but that is going to make it Rec 709, which is fine for photos. And I'm going to say yes. So the first thing I'm going to do is take that first shot we had, and you can see it's kind of a vertical, looks like a vertical 4:3 shot. And in LumaFusion, you can choose by double tapping on the clip. You can go to the frame and fit editor, which is this button down here. And this allows you to position, size, rotate, move, all of that stuff, crop. And in here, the top thing is called fit mode. So I can choose fit, I could choose fill, I could choose focus, which is going to be the top of the screen, or stretch, which we obviously don't want. But I'm going to just choose fill for this one. And you can set a default in the settings. And then I'm going to go down. Here's my little line. This is going to be my keyframe line. I'm going to go to the size and position and turn on keyframing. That's this little button right here on the left bottom. And in this image, I'm going to start at the bottom. So right here, and then I'm going to pan up like we did in the video. So I'm going to go about, let's make a 2 second, well, actually, I'm just going to go all the way to the end and pan it up. So I have one keyframe at the start, and as soon as I move this, we're going to get a second keyframe at the end. So it's automatically creating a keyframe because keyframing is turned on. And if I play this now, you're just going to see that it moves up the screen. But if I want, in the next version of LumaFusion, you can also change how it moves. So I can set an ease to that motion so that it goes faster at the beginning and it kind of curves up and goes slower at the end. So now as I play this, you're going to see it moving faster at the beginning. And then when it comes to a stop here, it's going to nicely ease to the stop. I'm also going to put a fade up in here. So I'll put let's put a 2 second fade up. So I'm going to move to 2 seconds, and you can see the time is right there. I'm going to put a keyframe here. So at 2 seconds, I'm going to be faded up, and that's what it's going to look like. And at 0 seconds, I'm actually, I'm in the wrong thing. I need to go to, I'm going to delete that keyframe. I'm sorry. I need to go to the blend modes because blend modes is where opacity is. So I'm going to turn on keyframing here, go to the beginning, and then fade out. So now I have some keyframing on size and position, and then the fade up on blending. So as I play this, it's going to play both of those keyframes. And then the same on the out. I can say, well, at about here, I'm going to start the fade out, and then here, I'm going to end the fade out. I'll play that one more time so you can kind of see how the keyframes work. Right? So that is what is like called pan and scan. Incidentally, instead of doing your blending to fade down, you can also just go into the sources in the library and choose a transition like a cross dissolve and throw it on there. Just drag it to the cut and trim it to however long you want. That would also be fine. I kind of like to have, have it integrated into the effect myself. I'm not sure that there's any good reason for that, but I do. So anyway, we're going to go back here now and get some of our other shots. So I'm going to put another clip on here, and then I'm going to show you a little bit about the timeline before we move on. So this is our main track. It's this gray track, the lighter gray track right here. We can add tracks upward and we can add tracks downward, and typically you'd put audio below and you put video above. So I'm going to just show the way that this track works. Right now we're in insert mode, and if we tap this button, which is located in this header, then you can go in overwrite mode. So in insert mode, if I take another clip and put it in between there, you see that I bar icon. It's going to move the clips apart. And if I take that out, I can just drag it off the timeline, it moves them back together. Now, if I'm in overwrite mode and I take that clip and put it right there, it's going to overwrite the clip and not, it doesn't move anything else on your timeline. It just overwrites. So let's go back. And also, you can add tracks above, and that's how I got that layered effect. So this one goes to 518. I'm going to maybe put it a second and a half later. But for this first one, I'll solo that. So I only seeing that on the timeline here. And I'm going to make that about 80% size and move the position over here. I know that it's about 79 minus. So enter. I'll put it right there. So now it's just sitting still there. And if I want to animate that on, I'll turn on keyframing. And I'll go to, so it started at 518. I'm going to want to go about a minute and 10 frames in and put a keyframe there. I mean, not a minute, a second and 10 frames in. So so this is where it's going to land. So keyframing just says, at this point, I want to see this or that. So I'm going to say at the first point, I want to see it off screen by that much, sort of half off and half on. And then again, I'm going to go to my blending modes, turn on a keyframe, and when it lands, I'm going to put another keyframe and fade it in. So we have a move of that coming on. So I'm not going to do each of these, but I am going to just add an effect that I already saved for the other three. So for instance, I have an effect I saved, and I can just, I just need a different, I don't want the same clip, I want a different clip because that's way more interesting. So I will double tap on this and go to the saved effects and put this one here. So now I have another one come in. So I would continue that with my other 4 shots. And in this case, I'll just go ahead and put the transition at the end because it's faster. I'm going to put that there and that there. And now as they come on, then they're going to fade off. And I would just continue building up the other layers of the edit. So a couple things you should know about editing in LumaFusion is how to do, I'm going to go back to our main edit here, just because we have lots more tracks. And I'm going to talk about clip linking and insert overwrite a little bit more. So this main track controls how all the other clips on the timeline behave, like all these other layers up here. So if I trim this first clip and I have, you see those little white lines that are attached to each of these clips, that means that those are linked. I'm going to unlink, say, this one here, I think. Yeah. And you'll see the difference. So an unlinked clip is going to stay where it is when it's trimmed, when the rest is trimmed, and all the linked ones are going to move along. And that's just something automatically that will happen. Things will get linked when you add them to the timeline, but you can go in individually and link or unlink clips. You can link or unlink an entire track, or if you're just not sure if a track is linked, all your tracks are linked, you could go through and toggle these. That would be a way of making sure everything is linked. And the same holds true for audio. If I took this audio and moved it over and linked it, now it's linked to that first clip. So if I was to pick up that clip, it would take that audio with it. Okay. If I was to pick up these clips, it's going to take all those clips with it. So I can easily change the order of this. Now, as you see, it's looking top down. So when there's transparency behind these clips, it's going to see what's below it. And that's what we have here. I'm going to undo that. Okay. So next, I want to talk about the impact of music. And to do that, I'm just going to play a little bit of this one again so you can hear the mood that this music brings. And then I'm going to go show you what would happen if I switch the music out to another one. Okay, so you might have noticed that as each of these come in, it's on a phrase of the music. It's kind of melancholy and pensive. Now I'm going to go to another edit that I just switched the music out. I didn't change any of the editing, but you'll see that it has a completely different feel now. Okay, so you can see just by changing the music, you change something from a very pensive and calm mood to something that seems like something bad is about to happen. Like this is a spy novel, or a spy about spies moving around the city or something. And so if I was to edit to this music, I would also change the style of editing to reflect that feeling. So I'm going to go into Storyblocks and just show you that Storyblocks is a stock library, and it has just loads of footage you can go find. You can find music, background, sound effects, and in here there's filters, so you can look and see different kinds of footage, which you're not probably going to want, but the music and sound effects are where you'll really find some really cool stuff that you can help put your slideshows together. Looks like, okay. So down here, you see these filters. You have different types of music like hip hop, holiday, horror, so on. And then you have the mood, happy and upbeat, relaxing, sad, sentimental, and then the types of instruments that are in the music. So I was able to find some of this music by saying ambience. And then I think I typed in China because I wanted a feel. So you can just put in a search. And then it brings up the list of what's available. And you just can play it right from LumaFusion and find what you want for your project. So that is, that is a subscription. And the reason it's a subscription is because we have to pay a subscription to Storyblocks for that. So to provide it, but we do provide it at a really a much better rate than you could find if you went straight to Storyblocks. So that is the only thing left. So you say you've got your whole show done here. You just need to know how to share it. And that's super simple. You go to this button down here. I'm going to stop again. This one on the bottom right. Open it up and it opens up a panel, and you can choose whether you want to share a movie. You could share it to Final Cut with XML project package. You could back it up with the LumaFusion project package. I'm just going to do a movie, and then I will go to any one of these places as a photographer. You might like Vimeo. I don't know that I'm logged into Vimeo though, so I'm going to do YouTube. And here you can see the resolution is set up based on what's in your timeline and what destination you're going to. So, you know, we know we're going to YouTube, so really there's no reason to do ultra resolution. You can. At some point, YouTube always re-encodes anyway, so it really isn't going to matter. It plays back the quality based on your connection, so it re-encodes it in several ways and then plays back the best one for the viewer's connection. So I know this looks like it only goes to 12 megabits, but if I was to put a 4K video clip, you know, I can have 6 layers of 4K video on here at I don't even know the megabits per second. It's up there. I can't remember if it's 240 or something, but super high megabits per second. 6 tracks of 4K plus another 6 tracks of audio, so you have enough that you could really, and then in that case your export would show a huge megabits per second option. Anyway, when you're done with that, you would just say you want to go to YouTube, blah blah blah, and press export, and it'll just start. Ask me for the category and whether it's private or not, and then you just go and it writes the movie, and you can see it's really fast. Writing the movie is going to be really fast, and uploading, you know, will depend on the speed of your connection. So we're just uploading this now, and when it's done, it'll say, oh, you know, here's the link to find your movie. So YouTube will probably say it's processing at the moment, but that's yeah, we're processing the video. Check back later. So, but in a couple minutes, we could go there and see our video is up. So I guess that is pretty much, you know, what I wanted to share with you, except for that, you know, this is just like a taster of what you can do with LumaFusion. There's color correction, there's titling, other ways of audio mixing, and we have loads of tutorials on our YouTube site. We have courses, and actually, as Glenn mentioned, we have LumaTouch Academy, which is taught by Glenn Mulcahy, Carolyn Scott, and Courtney Jones, and they you can get courses directly from them, like a face-to-face, well, not face-to-face because of COVID, but you know, Zoom to Zoom training from them. So that's really fun, and you can go to our website. I think he's got the website to sign up for that right across the bottom. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Awesome. You know what? If the whole app development thing doesn't work out for you, I think heart surgery is an alternative career, because to stay calm under pressure with this is just amazing. So well done you. That was fab. We have had some questions coming in, some really interesting ones. I just want to say a couple of pointers on it. So I've been in the training space for about 10, well, actually a little bit more than 10 years in the mobile space now. As long as LumaFusion has existed, that's been my app of choice, not because they pay me to say that, but because actually someone who comes from the broadcast industry, someone who used to use Avid as the main editing system for the newsroom that I worked in, this is the closest that you're ever going to get to something like Final Cut Pro or Avid, if you like, on a mobile device, because the features, Terri's, she's completely underselling it, because she's barely scratched the surface on what this thing can do. I mean, you know, the presets alone, just being able to save the presets on the animations that you did for the images coming in, that saves so much time. You build it once, save it as a preset, and then apply it to the other images, and boom, that workflow speeds it up. Equally, you're deliberately pacing yourself, showing people stuff, but I know that you could assemble that entire edit, lock, stock, and barrel, finished in 5 minutes flat if you just let go at it. So look, what I would say is, this really is a teaser. That's the best way to describe it. Jump over to the YouTube channel and search for LumaTouch and have a look. There's an amazing series of tutorials there from Photo Joseph that go into the most minute detail if you want to go that deep into any specific function. And there's also a massive, really, really detailed help guide on the actual the app as well available. So like we can post links in that at the end of the YouTube description. But I'm going to stop procrastinating and waffling. I just want to get into some of the questions that are coming, because there's some interesting ones that I had never even thought about before. I'm going to go these reverse. So the most recent one that came in was this one. So from Yanni Mieri. I hope I pronounced that right. Do you credit the music in presentations if it comes from LumaFusion? I guess you mean story blocks. Do you need to acknowledge it and credit it, or how does that work?
No, it's a completely, copyright free library. So the artists in that get paid for that music. So you're not borrowing it. You've bought it by buying LumaFusion and buying the subscription. And we've bought it from them. So the artists are paid and are very happy to be getting that money.
Okay. Did we, I don't know if we mentioned or not, what the Storyblock subscription is? It's a set fee, isn't it? It's single fee, and it's per month or per year?
It's for a month or a year. I believe it's $9.99 a month or $69.99 a year.
Right.
It's cheaper than it is online because LumaTouch, subsidizes that, because we just really wanted a library for our customers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm paying something similar to that for, I won't mention the particular photo stock service that we use. So that's a really, really good price. Okay, I'm going to jump back further up the questions. A question from Mark Egan. Good to have you with us, Mark. He says, Final Cut Pro has lots of different third-party plugins. What's the future for Luma and third-party integrations or plugins?
So iOS has a plugin structure for audio plugins, and we do support third-party audio plugins. So like Echo and denoise and all that. You can just open that up in your iPad, and then it'll be available in LumaFusion. But iOS does not have a structure in place for video plugins. But so any plugin that we support, we have to work directly with the manufacturer, and we use an SDK and do all this work to make it work, and which is what we did recently with Core Melt and the Lock and Load Stabilizer plugin. But that is several months of work between the two companies making that work. So it's a one at a time deal.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I mean, so if you're not familiar with it, version 3 dropped literally in the last week and a half, I think I'm right in saying, and there's a new built-in image stabilizer, which is a plugin, as Terry's mentioned. But obviously, as someone who does a lot of video training, one of the things with mobile often is that if you're shooting handheld, unless you have a very steady hand, you're going to get some sort of level of jello effect or wobble in your shot. So Core Melt basically is going to help you to basically stabilize your footage within the app. You don't use any third-party apps to do it, which is great. Okay, I'm just plowing by. It's good. Loads of people just saying hi from different parts of the world, which is really nice. Yanni also said she had this question. Well, it's not really a question. It's more of a statement, isn't it? It's from earlier on when you were doing the first pass at Brendan's piece. She said, please speak to how music influences the feeling and mood of a presentation. I think you kind of touched on that, though, really, when you showed the two different examples. Yeah.
But, so I can tell you how I edit. I find a piece of music I love first for the mood that I'm trying to capture, and I edit. I didn't do that in the demo, but I do edit to the music. I lay down the music, and then I listen intently to what it's telling me, and I obey that. Not only do I obey the mood, but I try to reflect the mood and the phrases of the music. So when I learned to edit, my instructor faculty said, there's two things you need to listen to: is your inner metronome. It tells you things about timing, but also editing and visuals is an on-screen dance. So I think of it like a ballet. So if I hear a phrase of music that says da 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 dun dun, I'm going to make my motion follow that da 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 dun dun. It's just like, it's a dance, and I respect that and follow it completely. So it's really important to me.
That's an interesting tip, actually. It's definitely something that I haven't worked in news for a long time. People tend to just try and find a piece of music that kind of works with the edit after the fact. The problem with that, you know, if you're an editor, you'll know this, but obviously if you just slap music on at the end, so to speak, and I mean that politely and respectfully, you're missing the opportunity for all the kind of, you know, the pacing and the timing, and as you say, matching the bars and the phrases and the music, which is interesting, actually. Sidebar for a moment. Jakob Hack, you know, huge fan of LumaFusion and everything.
Love him.
Jakob's album that he launched, whatever, it was about a year and a half ago. We spoke to him in the summit last year. And when I heard that album for the first time, it immediately relit a fire for a short film idea that I'd had about 3 years previous. And in hearing the first song, I instantly, having had this on a shelf like Gathering Dust, I instantly visualized the opening sequence of the actual piece. I haven't shot it yet for the record, but so I'm not. But I will. It's on my. This is as soon as quarantine, all that crap goes away. It's high on my list. His music is going to be the heart of it. So it'll be the ultimate made on mobile, music made on mobile as well. Anyway,
He's amazing. Yeah.
Andy is weighed in with the question, actually. I'm going to bring it back up on screen. Do you want, your video's dropped a lot there, Andy. Oh, you're back. Do you want to post directly?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is keyframing a key approach to take when adding more dynamic movement into your moving rather than just using transitions?
Yeah. Not only can you use keyframing for position and size and you know, moving things around, but can I show LumaFusion again?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just show you what would happen if I took one of these images. I'll take this first one of the with the checkerboard floor and go over to the color and effects editor, and in here you have just loads of effects that you can add, and you can build these up. So I could I didn't want to mess up with his photos, but if you see, I can start here, and by here have this like this, and add a completely different effect to that. Not only that, I could take all of this, and behind that, instead of having black, I could have, which I thought about doing but just didn't, I could have some graphic, like I could imagine in the one with the other music, maybe like a flower, you know, pattern kind of growing back there. You could add something like that behind your images subtly. So yeah, keyframing is the total language of motion. So yeah.
Yeah.
I will also say, you mentioned, I think when you're talking, so there's 6 layers of 4K resolution video supported and 6 layers of audio. Obviously the video has audio built in as well, so 12 tracks of sound technically. Multicam mode, I know it's not out yet. Someone did ask, there's a few people asked actually about the director's pack, when is it coming and stuff like that. Do you want to touch there, or is that sensitive territory?
I mean, we're not secretive like Apple, but what we do have a method of working that means I don't know when it's coming, to be quite honest, because the way we work is we work agile. We have a group of stories that we want to finish, like as a multicam editor, I want to cut between clips, or as a multicam editor, I want to sync my audio, whatever. We have this group of hundreds of stories to complete something. And each week we take in a number of those stories and we do them until we can't find anything wrong with that stories, and we do them in the order of, if we had to release tomorrow, what would have to be in there, you know, and we work down all the way to the end, and when we get to the end we release. Which means I can kind of guess sometimes, but I found that it's not a good idea for me to guess because it's not going to be right. But that's what we're working on now. That's our full-time job, is working on the director's pack and the creative pack. The director's pack will have multicam. I think it has the keyframing, and then later all the other stuff like subtitles and so on will come.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously, I saw when you spoke recently at a live stream at the launch of version 3, you talked about what was coming further down the lines. I think Josh did the interview with you, and to be able to support subtitles natively in the app is mind blowing. I mean, for certainly the people that I typically teach, journalists and stuff, that's an end to end workflow now. They don't have to go outside the app for anything other than just the shooting part, which is pretty bloody amazing, to be honest.
That'll be nice. And you know, when we develop something for the iPad or iPhone, we have to develop it at the iPad size. The matching functionality has to be developed in this tiny little iPhone, the smallest iPhone. And yeah, it's pretty, it's an overwhelming job if you think about it, much past what you have to do today. So, yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. Very good. A few people did ask stuff. For instance, we had a question like, how do you add voice to it? So I'll just direct, like, we're nearly at the hour. I'll add people. Do have a look at the YouTube channel, because there are literally step-by-step tutorials for every single one of the functions in the app, including the newest and latest features. So I'd strongly encourage you to dip in there. I've put up on screen support at LumaTouch.com if people have questions or queries and stuff, so that there's a place that they can reach out and get support. The guys are very, very attentive. I would give them absolute credit on that. Like, there's pretty much always someone there at the end of the line during working hours, of course. They don't sleep, eat, drink it, but they're there and they're very responsive. Terri, like I say, kudos to you for staying calm under pressure. That was, that on a scale of 1 to 10 of double whammies, that was about as high as it can possibly ever go. But kudos to you for staying calm.
There was a day editing that was worse than that. So there's been times when I come into the edit suite and all my media has been erased off of a disk or whatever back in the old days, So I'm kind of used to that bad news. So I'm glad I was able to at least kind of get it back together. So.
Yeah, very well, very good. Well, look, I'm sure Andy feels the same, and if Brendan was with us, I think he's bowed. But thanks so much for the support of the actual awards as well, because it's been, it's basically been pivotal to us being able to run it, to be honest, and we really, really appreciate it. I think, having seen Rob's entry, you can see, hopefully, those of you watching at home, how many are still, there's about 30 or something people watching us still live. So thanks for bearing with us, but two, also, hopefully it's fired up your kind of enthusiasm for seeing the potential of what you can do just on that device that you carry everywhere with you, because that's the single most important thing. It's a bloody powerful tool, and so many people underutilize it. It's kind of in some ways hilarious. I think we're going to wrap it up, Terri. Thanks so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. Is there anything?
Would you mind if we gave away some?
Oh God, I'd never say no to a giveaway. What do you, okay. what do you have in mind? One of those LumaFusion t-shirts would be good.
Oh yeah, I mean, we do have some of those up on the shelf here. We all, I can send codes. So if you have a couple viewers you want to randomly pick, or however you want to do that, I'll send you two LumaFusion codes and 2 story blocks for a year codes, and you can do with however you like. Okay.
So because to be fair, actually the number's gone up again now. So someone heard the word giveaway, and suddenly the viewership has gone up. To be fair to those who have who've stuck with us for the hour, and I think that that's really important to acknowledge that. How about we just do it with this simple couple of questions, and the first 4 answers in, we'll do a pecking orders. So fingers on the buzzers, please, as they say in quiz shows. Any ideas what the question is, or will I just come up with something real simple, real quick?
You can come up with something simple. What is keyframing?
Oh, I'm looking for a one word answer, so I don't have to do it.
Okay, you better come up with something.
Or how many tracks of video and audio can LumaFusion support? That's a single number. Fingers on the buzzers, please. First 4 answers going to pick off a prize. So I'm watching the actual the comments now, and we'll see how people do. Now, I will go back to my experience on the Mobile Creator podcast previously when we did a competition. Somebody's just replied, and he just answered the wrong answer. I'm going to put these answers up in real time just to name and shame people who are replying the wrong answer. How? Richie Donlin for that length of time and get the number. I mean, come on. Right. First correct answer is Gary EMC2. Next person with the correct answer is Irene. Next person with the correct answer is, sorry, Inessa, that's the wrong answer. Next person with the correct answer, Lynn. And then the last answer is half right and half wrong, but we'll give it to you, Yanni, because he had a couple of other good questions in there. It's 6 and 6. So 6 tracks of 4K video and 6 tracks of audio. Oh, okay, that's 4 winners, and Richie is now doing icons that show that he obviously is feeling the heat from getting that wrong. But anyway, Andy, can you take note of the 4 people that got the answers right, so we can reach out to them afterwards and
let's just give them each a code for LumaFusion and a code for Storyblocks. I'm good for that.
Oh wow, okay, that's really generous. Well, thank you very much. That's very nice of you guys. The 4 of you who have I've just called your names out, so hopefully you heard me. Can you please PM us or get in contact with Andy? I will put it up on screen right now, actually, so that we have it. Oh God, where did I put it? Yeah, so here are all the different ways you can get in contact with Andy and Mobiography. So reach out to him or us via one of these channels, just with your details, so we can get in contact with you and try and arrange the codes with Terri. That would be really good. That was very generous, Terri. Thank you so much, and really, really very much appreciated. Okay, so fun and event loaded hour and a little tiny bit. Technology, like I say, is great when it works, and then there's always days like today. But we pulled it back, and I think we still got a good bit of value out of that. And like I say, haven't seen Rob's piece in particular. Hopefully, people now have a better sense of the type of content, the type of stuff that both you're looking for and that we've been seeing come in. So that's the sort of stuff that we're looking at. Images can have some video clips in there as well. Try and stick to around the 2-minute mark there, thereabouts. Upload to Vimeo or YouTube and send the link in. There's some other metadata on the question form. Andy, I'm conscious of time. Any parting words you want to put into the mix? Any other things you want to shout out?
Well, thanks for Terri for the presentation today. I've been using LumaFusion myself recently, just trying to get to grips with it. And the one thing that does stand out is once you get the hang of it, is just how quickly you can sort of put things together, drag things across, and trim things down, and just put a movie together. I'm not a professional by any means, but yeah, it's a really fun app to use.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
If I can echo that, I would also say I use this metaphor when I'm training people actually who are novice users in the shoot edit space. Think of it like the experience of driving a car, folks. Do you remember the first time someone handed you a set of keys and you got into behind the driver's wheel, the panic? And I know in America you don't have stick shift, but that's the common one over this side of the world. That's a whole other thing. You're looking down at where the gear stick is, not watching where the car is going. So, you get from that to muscle memory. In many ways, I would use that as a metaphor for this. The first couple of times it is about learning to push the buttons, no question. But once you've understood where the buttons are and you get into the creative process, that's where you just start to fly. And the speed comes with practice. Like I say that all the time. It really, really is important. But yeah, fantastic. The key thing is you can do so much in the app. You have no idea. So do please check it out if you haven't already. Okay, guys, we're an hour and 10 minutes in, and we still have over 30 people watching us live, which is remarkable. But Terri, I'm going to let you probably go back to bed at this stage, or maybe have a full pack schedule for the day ahead. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's been great catching up with you. Thanks so much for giving up the time and everything. And again, thanks so much for the sponsorship. To those of you who are with us, we'll be pushing this out on social. We're back next week. So up until now, it's been every 2 weeks. But for the last run up to the actual deadline, we're back every Saturday. We'll have a live show next week. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it is, Andy, or is it in the public domain? Have we said anything yet? Or?
I think we're okay. I think Brendan's doing a photo editing workshop. I think he's going to be using Darkroom.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. Well, that'll definitely worth tuning in. I want to.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd say is that get your entries in. We're 2 weeks out now from the deadline, so next week will be the sort of last live show, I think, before the closing date.
Yeah, very good. I'm looking forward to. We have talked about the idea of doing a live show with the category and the overall winner, and I think that'll be really. Find out a bit of a backstory behind who the final winners are and everything. But that's a little bit further away. The winners won't be announced probably till late September. Am I hanging myself by saying that?
Probably late September, probably into October, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we're going to do it proper justice, so we will take our time. Okay, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Again, to the 4 of you won the prizes, please do reach out and connect with us so that we can hook you up with the codes and everything to draw those down. And until next week, bye-bye for now.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.